Hello, welcome to natemareflix. I am Nate. You are you, and A Quiet Place 2 is officially out in theaters as the world gets ready to go back to normal, hopefully. So, is it good enough for you and your friends and your family to go out and see in theaters? Is it a deserving send-up of the original that so many of us loved? I will tell you, yes, this was a very solid horror sequel, which praise be, because Lord knows there are a bunch of hot, stinky garbage sequels out there. This one, it doesn't do anything to really ruin the first one. Some movies do that. They're so ready to make a big buck off of the glory of the first film that they do things that end up kind of tarnishing that first film. We all know sequels that have done that to movies we love. This one does not do that, even though there was so much potential for it to do it. It takes a wonderful premise and it takes it and kind of elaborates on it, extrapolates the concept into a larger, bigger world with more characters. You can see how it's affecting this society on a more macro level than in the first film with this close-knit family. That being said, I kind of missed the family aspect. I mean, the charm just wasn't there without John Krasinski around the entire time. But if you're a big fan of his, you will still get yourself some John Krasinski because this movie kind of opens with day one. That's right. As promised with the trailer, we get to see the first day, that day of reckoning when the small little slice of America gets disturbed, gets rocked as these alien creatures land and just start, unleashing all holy hell. And man, is it captivating. If you've ever heard me talk about Scream and why I love that movie so much, it's because it has a hook. It has an introduction that just grabs you, shakes you, does not let you go. It makes you feel like anything is possible. That's what this introduction does. Do not arrive to the theater late because you will be missing out. I loved it. And I love the theater experience that comes with A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place 2 because any sort of noise is just so prohibitive, obviously. But you'd be kind of like thinking to yourself, I've already been through this once. I've been through this experience. They're not going to get me again. But I got to tell you, I was so immersed. As soon as I sat down, it was like every little tiny bit of sound seemed so jarring and so dangerous and so potent. So when you see these people just going about their normal everyday lives and they start chatting and you hear a fence kind of rustling in the wind, you hear lights flicking, you hear a dog barking, and you're just like, guys, stop. What are you doing? You're like, oh yeah, this is life. This was normal. And then all of a sudden shit gets crazy and you're right back in it. And that feeling you had of like clenching down on your seat and everybody hush, every little sound is prohibited. It is right back because all hell, it busts loose. Amazing sequences here, amazing action, way to open up the film and get you hooked. And it really shows you what you are in for because this movie, one of the biggest strengths of Krasinski's script here is it's not just good about being like, hey, here's some cool action, here's some cool alien stuff. It's exploring the scene and the full potential of the scene to say, yes, we have some conflict, we have some drama here, but how can we constantly compound problems? How can we raise stakes? Well, what if we have the son forget about this? And what about this character who's vulnerable to this? Maybe we'll kind of separate them and not through any sort of clumsy plot device that we often get in horror movies and people kind of just split up for the goofiest of reasons. No, everybody has a real good incentive to kind of go their own way and pursue something. The daughter who is hearing impaired, we saw her in the first film that she had a difficult relationship with her father and that his death, his sacrifice, and obviously weighed heavily upon her. Now she's trying to assume his mantle and not let his loss be one of vain. So she's trying to assume his mantle and carry out his legacy and not let all this work that he was setting forth be for naught. So you can see why she's going to do her own thing. Emily Blunt, she's got this family that she has to look out for, and they all are doing their own thing. I mean, the one is just a baby. The hearing impaired girl, she's trying to take up for her father. She's trying to make everything work and save the day for everybody, not just her family, which is going against the grain and not necessarily doing what's best for the small unit. She's thinking about the whole and not just the family. So as a mother, of course, you're going to want to keep her close. So that's a great plot device. And then the son, they set him up to be kind of a wimp in the first one. And boy, did they double down on that here. If you don't like anybody, it's going to be the son character, but you need it and it's real. Or if you don't like them, that's fine, but you can't say that that's not human nature, that some of us just don't do well under pressure. Sometimes our anxiety, our fear, we don't handle tension and stuff very well. He is definitely that person. He's not somebody you want around when, the fit hits the shan, so to speak. So all that great writing. That's fantastic stuff. I love the direction. This movie is still as sleek and polished as the first film. Of course, the sound design is great, and I actually think the monsters look better in this one, because often with special effects, you will try to hide and obscure things with darkness, because darkness can kind of save you, and it can allow for you to kind of mask some of your issues. So if your CGI isn't that great, or maybe there's a little bit of your physical effect that just isn't quite right, you can hide in darkness. That's awesome. This movie actually dares to put the monsters more right out in your face and in the sunlight, and that is when they look their best, because it was like they are aware that it's all out there in the open, it's under a magnifying glass, we can see every nook and cranny, and they brought it. They look best when they are basked in the light, and I actually thought that was a cool way to be like, where do we have potential in the first one to do something different, to do something better? They do that here with the monsters. They put the monsters in new situations and new settings that we didn't get in the first one. And I just love that. And that is why I so eagerly welcome this third film, because we are being promised a trilogy. I love this set of characters. I love the world building that has gone on here. This is just a really solid film, and I think some people may end up kind of being a little bit harsh on it because they're gonna be like, well, it wasn't as good as the original, but not a whole lot of movies really are, because that movie kind of came out of nowhere, and it felt fresh, it felt original, it was unlike anything else out there at the time, and it was just a good, solid creature feature that lacked any sort of camp and was just really about family and great acting. And it had this palpable emotion. You don't always get that type of thing, and it came first. So of course this movie, it's going to be compared to that. And that's not necessarily fair, because if that movie didn't exist and this was the first one and we had never seen the first Quiet Place, I think we'd put it way up high and we would be talking about how amazing it is. But instead, we're just kind of doing this comparison game the whole time, and I don't want to do that while reviewing this movie. I want to look at it on its own merits, and I want to say it was a damn good theater experience. I love the way, like I said, that the conflict and the stakes, they were always constantly raising, and I can't wait to see what would happen in the next installment of this franchise. So if you've seen A Quiet Place 2, go ahead and let me know your thoughts down below. I would love to talk to you guys down there about the film. And other than that, you have a fantastic day. I'm Nate from natemareflix saying that's a wrap.